Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Freedom. Today I have a very special guest. She's from Australia. I've just met her recently. She's so amazing. The work that she's doing is really, really remarkable. She's an award-winning coach. She's an author. Amy Taylor, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. For those people who don't know who Amy Taylor is, please tell us more about yourself and what you do.
So predominantly I'm a stay-at-home mum and I've got 4 children.
Okay.
Alongside navigating my marriage with my train driver husband who works ridiculous hours and shifts, I run my own business teaching productivity coaching and helping people, particularly small home-based business owners, find a way to create systems and structure in their businesses that aligns with their way of thinking. So we rather than a one-size-fits-all approach, I customize systems with my clients so that it aligns with their way of thinking. I hate one-size approaches. They're just not how I operate. There's not one-size-fits-all. There's not one way to do anything. There's multiple ways, and my superpower, for want of better language, is to help people find the way that they operate best so that they can increase their productivity, but most of all, stay fulfilled as they go out into the world, make a difference, and achieve their goals.
Oh, okay, that's great. Before we get into the amazing work that you're doing, please tell us more. How was it like growing up in Australia for someone who's never been there? Give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's kind of like hard to answer that without knowing the differences. I don't know any different. I grew up in the Blue Mountains, which is a fairly popular tourist destination. So the Three Sisters in Katoomba was about 15 minutes from my home to drive. And having said that, I think I've been there twice in my life, because when you live in these areas, you take them for granted and don't realize just how special it is. So I live in the bush. It's currently raining outside. I just looked outside to sort of ground myself into what it's like to live here. It's currently raining, but normally it's reasonable weather, but there's trees everywhere. If I look out my window just here, there's like a ruined old, what is it? I look at it and I see like a ruined castle and imagine I'm in like this weird fairy tale. It's not a ruined castle. It is of steelworks that has come down, but everything is surrounded by bush. Everything is, and this isn't all of Australia. This is just a little piece of Australia that I live in. I can walk down the road, or I used to be able to walk down the road. Someone bought the property at the end now, but I used to be able to walk down the road and there were kangaroos that I could see in the field. And again, that's not going to be everyone in Australia, but that was my experience. We see emus when I drive my kids to school. There's 2 emus that live in a paddock, and every morning we play spot the emu. There used to only be one, and I'm really delighted there's 2 now. I always felt bad for this single emu in the paddock on its own, but he has a friend now, or she has a friend. And so I drive my kids to school in the bush, and it's beautiful to live in the country. And I have lived in the city. It's just not my thing. I'm not a beach person. I'm not a city person. I'm definitely a country bush person. And there'd be people that actually live in the real bush who would say, you live in a city, Amy. Like it's a built-up town that I'm in. I'm not bush, but it's bush in my world.
I like it when you say, I'm not bush, but it's bush.
Yeah, in my world it's bush. There'll be people that actually live in the country who are like, you don't know what you're talking about, Amy. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. That's my experience. It's been great to live in the country and have access to that. I grew up bushwalking. I grew up reading books under trees
Oh,
and playing outdoors, and it was just lovely.
okay. No, that's great, and thank you for that. Um, you've mentioned something important in your introduction. You are a mother. How do you balance work and life?
Mm.
Work and life. Like, how do you go around it?
I'm not a huge fan of the word balance. I don't know that I do balance it, but I
Okay.
definitely navigate it. And it's knowing the priorities in the moment and knowing. So when I very first started coaching years ago, my youngest was 4 and was being home preschooled. So he stayed home with me all day, and I was running a full-time coaching practice at that point. I was doing between 5 and 6 coaching sessions a day with a 4-year-old at home and navigating that. And then my kids had come home from school, and I'd do probably 1 session an evening. I didn't do that for particularly long. I dropped my hours significantly, but it was about making sure his needs were met. And I still do the same. They're just now much older and they're less needy as such in terms of, so he needed far more attention and supervision.
Yeah.
But I would always go in. So between sessions, I would go in, I would check that he wasn't hungry or thirsty and he had food and water available to him. I'd make sure he had enough snuggles. I'd just check in. What did he need? And I still do this. So it's just that they're far less needy now. So my youngest is now 11 and my oldest is 17. So we're on track to 4 teenagers very, very shortly, which is a little bit scary. 4 toddlers was bad enough.
Yeah.
4 teenagers, I think, is going to be a whole different ballgame. Making sure their needs are met, making sure my own needs are met, making sure that I communicate my needs to my husband. All of that contributes to how I get to do what I do. Remembering why I'm doing what I do in my business and reminding myself that my business helps me be a better mum because I'm demonstrating to my kids that they can live their passion. That they can do what they love. And to me, that's the greatest mission. It's not, am I there for my kids? Though that's part of it. It's, am I being the version of me that helps them be the best version of them? And so that driving force has me writing books. When I wrote my book, my son was watching me. So my kids watch everything I do. Everything I do, my kids are watching. And I'm really conscious of that. And sometimes they're watching and they pick up the things that I don't want them to pick up. Sometimes they're watching and they pick up what I do. I wrote my book, and I wrote my book in 90 days and I followed a system. My son said to me, well, if you can write a book, I can write a book too.
When did you write your first book?
So my first book, or the only book I've published, was published in, now you make me find a date. It's a couple of years ago. I can't recall exactly. I feel like 2019, but I've lost track of time. So, but he saw that I'd written mine. He's like, well, if you can write a book, I can write a book. So at 7, my son became a published author.
Wow.
He has a written, published book and a product. He has a better business system than I did. If we marketed it, he's got a better opportunity there because he's got the book, the product, and the whole piece. He had no desire to market it. It was his thing. And so that's fine. At some point we may pick it back up, but he's got a deck of emotion cards that he created, or we created concurrently as a family. Wow. And he's got a written book because he saw me creating products. He's like, well, if you can do it, Mum, I can do it. And that's what drives me. And it drives me for my clients and it drives me for my kids. But if I can do it, anyone can do it. At the moment, I'm playing with creating courses again because my clients want to create courses. I'm like, well, I'm not special. I am special and I'm not special, if that makes sense. Like I'm unique, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, all of those things that we say as coaches. But there's nothing special. If I can do it, I really, I wrote a book. I believe anybody can write a book, and I believe everybody can. And there's a book and a story that we've all got. The same with creating a course. We're all capable of that. There's nothing innate in me that, other than my stubbornness, and I'm really freaking stubborn, I won't give up. as is my child. Like his determination, because writing a book, it's not easy. I think we're all capable of it, but it's not necessarily easy. He just modeled my stubbornness and saw me persisting. So I wrote about my first year as a mum with postnatal depression. It was not an easy topic to write about. It brought up a whole pile of emotions, and my husband had never realized how awful my experience was. So it brought up a whole pile of emotions for him. And so it was really tough, but he saw me struggle with it and persist. And so when he was struggling writing his book, he's like, well, and he never said the words, but the essence was, well, I'm just going to be as stubborn as mummy. And he does that in lots of other places where I don't love it. But in writing a book, it was a good feature for him.
Wow, you are leading by example, and that's so amazing. Do you have any advice for a mom out there, for moms out there, how they should like deal with their kids and believing in what they wanna do? Do you have any advice regarding that?
Okay, again, I have a child in, so I'm obsessed with personality profiles. I've got about 30 that I recommend to clients to do, but I have a child, one of the ones that I use is DISC personality profiles. I'm an EDISC certified profiler, but I have a child for every one of those DISC energies. So there's 4 different kinds of personality in that. Okay. It means approaching my children in a way, every child is going to be different. How you meet them and nurture them is going to vary so much child to child. Yeah. The best way to do it, though, is that leading by example. Be the best version of you. And there's an essence, and this is going to sound wrong potentially to some people. There's an essence of forget about shaping your children and forget about doing what's needed for your kids and just be the example that they can follow. So my husband loves his job and I love what I do, and they see us navigate conflict and they see us live our best lives. That's the best thing we can do for our kids. Be present to them, listen to them, engage with them, set boundaries with them, all of those kinds of pieces. The best thing that we can do, though, is be the best version of us. Because if we're the best version of us, we give them permission to be the best version of themselves.
That's so powerful. Wow. Wow. Do you have any advice for that little kid who's struggling, who's having time fitting in? Doesn't matter where they are, but like they're just having tough time getting out of their trying to do what they want to do. Do you have any advice for that?
Well, the first piece is to know ourselves and embrace ourselves. So generally one of the reasons that we're struggling is because we're trying to fit ourselves into someone else's box. We're trying to be someone that we're not. We're trying to align with someone else's version of their best self. And so if we understand ourselves and accept ourselves, that struggle tends to disappear. But it starts with that self-understanding and not trying to be someone else. Be you. You are awesome. We are all unique and amazing and incredible. And the more we allow that to shine, the less struggle we have in our lives.
Very true.
Yeah.
Now let's get into coaching. You are an award-winning coach. What do you like most about coaching?
Well, what do I like most about coaching? I love new things. I love exploring patterns. And so working with clients allows me to have new things coming in all the time, because clients always come with new and different challenges. I rarely attract the same clients because doing the one size fits all approach is not for me. It's that I want the new and the different. But it's an opportunity to brainstorm and explore and tap into creativity and passion and help people be their best version of self and have the ripples flow out. And so the more I can encourage people to know themselves, embrace themselves, and go forth and encourage others to know themselves and embrace themselves, the world becomes a better place through that. And my little pebble in the pond is small, but each client puts a pebble in the pond, and each of their clients puts pebbles in the pond, and the ripples just grow from there.
Any advice you want to get into that? You want to pursue that as a career?
Pursue coaching as a career?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just testing where I'd start. The first piece is really working on yourself, and you can do it concurrently. So it's not necessarily a linear process. So lots of people want step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Yeah.
I tend to bundle them together. So there's an element of the personal development work and learning to understand and embrace yourself. Then there's an element of learning to understand others and what drives them and how you can help them. And then there's all of the business pieces. So there's those 3 pieces that need to come together: the self-awareness, the others awareness, and then the business awareness. And whichever of those is the biggest gap, start there. Because there's going to be a different gap for everybody. For some people, they're going to have the business awareness, but they don't have the self-awareness, or they're going to have the others awareness and not have the business awareness. Like it's finding the biggest gap. The other piece that I'd add, and this is something I'm developing at the moment, is to follow your own wiring. So where to start if you understand yourself. So for me, I start by brainstorming. At any new project, I start by brainstorming. That's my default. How I engage with the world is through brainstorming, generating ideas, and playing.
Yeah.
I have a client at the moment that I'm working with, though, and she starts with observation. So she has to look at the world around her and document the observations. I've got other clients that start with memory. I've got other clients that start with checklists. So it's knowing your own preference to be able to create your own adventure business plan, which, like I said, is what I'm building at the moment. Is this because the one size fits all isn't working. It's a broken system. Some people get success in some places, but not everybody does. And I started to wonder why aren't what is it? And the reason is we're being pushed to operate outside of our natural preferences. And then we feel bad because, well, everybody else is getting results, and not everybody else is getting results, but that's what we're telling ourselves. Everybody else is getting results. What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Find your way, find your process, find the coach that's a good fit for you, find the business strategy that's a good fit for you. Because when we do it our way and in alignment with our natural tendencies and leverage our natural tendencies, then we're far more likely to build success.
That's true. That's very true. You know, this is not a one size fits all, like you said in the beginning. That's who are you motivated by? Who are you inspired by?
At the moment, myself, which I know sounds really weird, but definitely myself. Definitely my kids. So my kids' ability to lean into stuff, they give me a lot of inspiration. And then and they inspire me. So Vanessa Talbot is one of my mentors at the moment. She's amazing. Stasha Washburn is my period coach, and she is awesome. And I'm highly inspired by her and her mission. And then I've got a bunch of accountability buddies. They all know who they are. I'm going to name all of, but there's a bunch of people in my life. I don't tend to go for the big names these days. I used to. I'm not as inspired by the big names anymore. Because I think because they're not relatable. they're not someone I can sit down and just have a conversation with. So I'm inspired by people I'm like right now I'm inspired by you as well, like leading this podcast. But it's the little people, and not that you're little, but it's the people that I can actually get in the room with and have a conversation. They inspire me far more. And that's not to say I'm not an avid reader. I am an avid reader. I've consumed 4 books in the last week. I've created like book reviews and stuff. And I get inspiration from that. But the people that inspire me most are the people that I can get in the room with and have a conversation.
Wow.
The people that I see still at the ground floor. My clients inspire me because they're wrestling with, and I think this is where the big names don't draw me in so much, because they're not sharing what they're wrestling with. They're not sharing. They no longer feel human. They're sharing solutions instead of humanity. I am still flawed and fucked up. I love when we started and the navigating. I want real people to play with, and both of my coaches are amazing for that. They're still human. They're still making mistakes. They own it, and I am very inspired by what they're doing and the missions that they're on. I'm also so inspired by my clients who come with such vulnerability to the sessions with me and are so craving. And the same with my kids. Like, my kids are the most inspirational people in my life. What they're to be growing up in today's world and navigating what they've had to navigate, they are amazing. And they're the people closest to me. They're the people that I interact with every day. They are who inspire me to get up every day.
And in general, what are some of the most important lessons that you've learned in life, and what are some of the challenges that you had to overcome?
I think the biggest one, which we've discussed already, is this one size fits all and overcoming the challenge of trying to fit in and reshape myself. Which I don't do anymore. Coaches, which both of my coaches will attest to. Saying, they'll ask the question. I won't play by the one size fits all. And both of them are open to that. I've deliberately chosen coaches that embrace that and embrace my uniqueness. But the trying to fit in and conform and be someone I wasn't, that's the biggest challenge that I'm still overcoming. And then breaking free and embracing this. There's no one size fits all. My brain patterns are very unique, very weird, and very few people think like me. And this is the same for everybody. And yet they are what make me amazing. That quirkiness, that weirdness, it's what my clients frequently, because I have such a great relationship. I've been working with a couple of my clients now for a couple of years, and we've got a really open, reciprocal relationship, and feedback flows both ways. And every now and then I'll say something. It's like, doesn't everybody think like that? And they both instantly jump on me and go, no, nobody thinks the way that you think, which could be taken. I think previously I used to take that as a real judgment and a real criticism. No one thinks like you. You're weird. And I felt outside, whereas now I take it as this most amazing compliment and reminder of my uniqueness and how awesome it is. And that's why they come to me, because I don't think like them. I'm not like them. I am like them in some ways, and I'm not like them. And there's this blend of connection through common values and some common patterns, and then there's this, but we want your weirdness, we want your quirk, and I see the world very differently and through patterns and codes, and that's what they're looking for. But everybody has their version of that. Finding our version of that and leveraging the crap out of it and turning it up, that's where we start to create a business that we're passionate about. That's where we start to really embrace who we are and be able to take it out to the world and make a difference.
Wow, you're so amazing. I feel inspired right now.
Me too. This has been a great conversation.
Wow. Do you have any books, recommendation books that have helped you along the way?
So this week's book has been You Can Be Everything by, I can't remember the author's name, which talks to multi-passionistas who don't know what they want to be when they grow up. It's an amazing book. The other book I've read this week is Profit First, which again, highly recommend if you're looking to grow a business. I'm still unscrambling my brain from the perspective shift that book gave me, and I'm implementing those systems. What other books do I recommend? Oh, my own book, of course. And my new upcoming book.
Tell us more about your book.
Well, so my first book is really a story book. It's not necessarily a personal development book, but it's a story about my struggles as a mum through postnatal depression. So for anyone who is struggling and challenged and want to realize that they're not alone, there's no solutions offered in that book. It ends on a cliffhanger, as a spoiler alert, like there's no clear ending to it.
Okay.
But it does give hope. And it does give reassurance that we're not the only ones struggling. So for anyone wanting to be reassured that they're not alone in their darkness, so it's called Journey Through Darkness.
Wow.
Or Insanity Journey Through Darkness. It's a way to connect with. And if you're a coach and you don't understand that journey through darkness, if you haven't, and I think most coaches have, is generally what brings us to coaching is some kind of struggle that we're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
There are some coaches that come that haven't had that, and you want to understand your clients. It could be a good book for just understanding that perspective and tapping into the compassion that's required as a coach. I think that's one of the things that makes me such a compassionate coach. I have been suicidal. I have left business opportunities where I was at the top of my business and I was doing amazingly, and it was crushing my soul. And I remember speaking with my direct sales manager. So I was like a Tupperware consultant, but with scrapbooking supplies. And I rang my manager and said, I have to leave. And she's like, I'll be there in an hour. And she got in the car and she drove up and sat at my kitchen bench with me. She's like, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I just know I cannot stay in this place anymore. And she's like, but you've got everything. You've got the fastest growing team. You're in the top 20 consultants. You just won the incentive trip. Like, what on earth is going on? I said, I don't know, but something feels off and it doesn't make sense for me to stay here anymore. I'm leaving. And so generally in those companies, you just let it drop off, because if you don't put the minimum requirements in, like the minimum sales in, you disappear after the couple of months and it drops off. I actually sent a resignation letter, which is very rare. I said, please tear up my contract. Like, we're done. I'm finished. I cannot do this anymore. So I get when my clients come to me and I want to burn my business to the ground, I understand it. And sometimes that is the best option, is just to tear it down and start afresh. I've also rebirthed my current business, and there are days where I still every now and then go, oh my God, what am I doing in business? I want out of this. And I've talked myself back into business and reignited and reconnected with the passion, which allows me to be a really great coach, because I understand. I know what it's like to sit on the edge and wonder if it's worth jumping, kind of thing. And I know what it's like to come back from that. And so I can help both in business and personal. I've done it. And in my marriage, I've done that in a number of places. I'm building the compassion. I'm like, how did I get here? I got here because I was sharing about a book. So the book was about postnatal depression. So as a parent as well, I've been to that edge, and I really struggled with going from working full time and feeling like I had my life all together to being at home with this small person that didn't come with an operations manual and made no sense to me and was demanding, and I lost my identity, and I was left with this small person to be responsible for, and I didn't even want to take care of myself, let alone this other small human. So it was tough. But yeah, if you want to read the story of that, Insanity Journey Through Darkness, you'll find it on Amazon. Okay. I don't even know what it costs anymore. I haven't been promoting it. And then the other one that'll come out, if I stay on track, and I make no promises that I'll stay on track, but it should be out by about June, which is the Create Your Own Business Adventure is the current working title. It'll probably get a better working title. I probably get a better title once I get to it, but the Create Your Own Business journey and plan, because it's not one size fits all. And if we can understand ourselves and we can create and design our business based on the way our brains work and leveraging our natural tendencies and patterns, that's got to be a good thing. So that will come out. Like I say, the plan is June.
Okay. Any message for someone who's having suicidal thoughts, who's going through depression? Do you have any message for that? Because you've been there.
The first piece, and for some people it'll land and some people it won't. The first piece is you're not alone. And I acknowledge it feels like it. Those words feel very hollow when we're in that space of depression and it feels like we are alone. We aren't alone. And for the person in that space, you aren't alone. And if you feel like you're alone, the feeling is valid, the thought is inaccurate. So it's okay to have the feelings, and then we want to make sure our thoughts, the words we put around the feelings are accurate. So it feels like there's a feeling, and for me, it was a deep-seated feeling of emptiness and hollowness, and everyone will have their own feeling around it. I then made that mean that I was alone, I wasn't lovable, I wasn't worthy. The feeling of hollowness was accurate. That was a true feeling for me. The meaning that I attached to it was inaccurate. And so it's okay to have the feelings. You can feel sad, you can feel alone, you can feel whatever it is you're feeling, and find someone to help you create some resourceful meanings and connect with someone. And again, it's so easy to say on this side of it. I remember hearing words like that when I was depressed and thinking, you don't know how hard it is. I do know how hard it is. And I remember going to the doctor. My baby was 8 months old and I'd just fallen pregnant with my second child, and I was in this awful space. And I went to the doctor and I said, I think I have postnatal depression. Like, it took every ounce of my being to get myself to the doctor and stumble through saying those words. And he looked at me and said, no, you're fine.
Wow.
At which point I just crumbled. And so if you're getting that experience, find someone else. And it's not easy and it's soul crushing, but finding the support is key. Do not try and do this on your own. And I had massive resistance from some people around me who, including my husband, who had no clue what I was going through, because outwardly I looked like I had my shit together. Outwardly, I still looked like everything was okay, because I'm so prone to being together and functioning. But fight to get heard. And it's gonna mean risking being vulnerable. It's gonna mean probably getting some rejection, which I know you feel like you can't handle right now. The person that's depressed feels like they can't handle that right now. And you can. And it is possible. We're all far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. Far more capable of navigating rejection, navigating setbacks. We are all, if the last 2 years has shown us anything, we are far more resilient as a human race, no matter what the world throws at us. In Australia, we've had the pestilence, we've had floods, we've had fires. So 2 years ago, I literally stood in my backyard stomping on flames to protect my house from fires. Then we had floods, and then we got the pestilence. I'm like, we're really in this. And I didn't think I was capable. There was a moment where I looked up and I'm like, we should have evacuated. We should not be here right now. And yet, had we not been here, I would have no house because there weren't enough firefighters. It was, if you go back in time on the internet, the fires in Australia at the end, I think it's the end of 2019. Again, don't quote me on dates. It's not my strength. They were massive. And it was literally the entire state. So there weren't enough fire trucks, but I did what I needed to do far more than I thought I was capable of. Oh. And my husband was the same. Both of us, it was just far more, the entire street, the entire town, like the entire state. But we managed that. We've managed lockdowns. There's so much that we've overcome that if someone had have said to me 4 years ago, this is what you're going to go through in the next 4 years, I'd have said, no way, I can't do all of that. That's not happening. The postnatal depression, if someone had have told me that 17 years on from where I was in that first 6 weeks with my baby, where I'd be with my son, teaching him to drive, and he's got a full-time job, there's this whole new level of parenting. If someone had tried to convince me then what I would have accomplished, and there's no way I would have believed them. Oh. We are more resilient, and there is a pathway out of wherever we are, whether it's a big weight or whether it's a little pebble in our shoe, and both of them can feel the same. Yeah, we're all resilient enough to come through it with the support, with the connections, with people around us, and it's just finding the right people. There will be people that will look at you. If I could go back and slap that doctor, I would so go back and slap that doctor. But there will be people that look at you and go, no, you're fine. And I've had that a lot. There was a training I did and I was struggling in the training, and I needed help. And someone went to one of the facilitators and said, Amy really needs some support. No, Amy's fine. She's got this. No, Amy's not fine. And I am fine right now. Like, don't mishear me in this. But there are moments where I'm not. And it's okay to fight when you're not okay to get the support that you need. There are people that will support you. It's just finding the right people.
Oh, that's true. That's so very true. I think I can relate to what you just said.
Yeah.
I've actually lost my train of thought.
Love it. You've touched on the emotions when the person asking questions can't remember where we're going. I love it.
No, what's going on? Okay. I think we're now good. Amy, tell me, how do you define success?
Again, I'm going to go with there's not a one size fits all. But for me, success, and it's interesting because I look at success in little tiny segments. Yeah. So rather than like the overarching success, success as a parent is being the best version of me that empowers my kids to be the best version of themselves. Yeah. Success in finances is not having to worry about money and just being able to navigate that pretty much on automation. So it depends on the area that we're looking at. Yeah. Overall, though, it's the ability to design, plan, and create a life that we love, and the self-acceptance and feeling productive and fulfilled each and every day.
Yeah. And then failure.
Oh, see, I don't know that I believe in failure. One of the principles I did a little bit of work around NLP is that there is no failure, there's only feedback. Oh, so failure to me is, there's not failure, there's just feedback. It either worked or it didn't work. If it didn't work, find another way. If it's not working for you, it's probably not the right system for you. Find another system. Yeah. And so failure to me, I mean, the only way you could really fail is to not be trying. If you're making mistakes, if you're if you're moving in any direction, whether it's forwards or backwards or up or down or whatever it is, if you're in the arena giving it a go, that's it doesn't matter what the result is. The opening of Brené Brown's book kind of comes to me, and the man, I'm not going to do the poem justice, but The Man in the Arena. If you haven't read that, look it up. I think it's a Teddy Roosevelt quote originally. But the person in the arena, the one that is bloodied and marred and scarred and has fallen down and got back up, but gave it a go, they're never failing. But the person sitting in the sidelines watching, tearing down the people that are giving it a go without ever giving it a go themselves, that's where I see failure, is in the people that aren't trying, and particularly if they're trying to tear down those of us that are. So if you're in the arena and you're making any kind of movement, you're creating some kind of traction for yourself, whether you're going forwards or backwards, whether you're getting it right or completely fucking it up, that's not failure. That's progress, and that's perfect. But if you're sitting on the sidelines wishing, waiting and hoping, that's what I would call failure, is the wishing, waiting and hoping for someone else to take care of it, for someone else to do it for you.
That's true. Do you have any regrets?
None that I'm willing to confess to publicly. One that I would say, it's not so much a regret. I don't tend to dwell on the past and what I could have done.
Yeah.
If I was just momentarily, it would be not embracing and accepting myself as I am earlier. Like if I could go back to me as a child and encourage me to embrace my quirk and accept who I am and leverage my weird way of seeing the world and the perspectives that I can bring, I would do that. That's probably the one thing that I would love to change earlier. I don't know if I'd have listened, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure there were people that were telling me that way back when that I wasn't listening to. So whether or not I'd have heard it, but yeah, the embracing myself, the accepting myself, the understanding myself and leveraging my patterns, my uniqueness, my wiring, I'd do that much earlier given the opportunity.
Is there anything that you would like to share with us that I didn't ask?
Not that jumps to mind. It's been a great conversation. I think we've shared so much already. It's just, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you inviting me on and giving me the opportunity. It's been a delight.
Yeah, okay. Amy, this is my last question. When it is all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
This is a question I've pondered a lot. And I never really settle on an answer. I think it changes so much. I think and based on that, it's like there's not one thing. Like, Amy was amazing at lots of things, and it's the little moments though that I don't want to be the big name. I don't want to be I don't want the accolades. I don't want I want the close relationships. I want you to remember this conversation and have it touch your heart. I want my clients to remember the moments and the tears and the laughter and the same with my kids. It's not the big things with them. I want my daughter to remember the ritual that we've got when we're snuggling in bed, and there's a couple of sayings that we've got that it's those little things. There's nothing big. It's all little things, and those little things will be different for different people. There's not a one size fits all. I want each person I connect with to have the memory that serves them best, that touches them most, which is going to be different for everybody.
That's amazing. Amy, thank you so much for your time. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I've learned a lot from your story. And I really, really would like to connect with you again.
Let's play again. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.